on this one afterwards that I noticed there was a light in the picture, but I wasn't like seeing something and then aiming and shooting. It was just, all I can describe it as is your body becomes almost sort of tingly and you feel kind of floaty, and you're operating. It's sort of like when like a second nature thing. When you're driving to a place you've gone to over and over again, your body just kind of knows how to get you there, and you're using your mind to reach the location, but you kind of know where to make the turns, even if you're focusing on talking to somebody or whatever when you're driving. And it's sort of maybe a poor example, but kind of what happens when this happens to me and I take the pictures. It's like I'm sort of doing this second nature thing consciously, and then I'm just letting the camera do whatever happens, and I'm not attached to any of it. If it happens, fantastic. But the whole idea is that we're here to make contact and to invite our star visitors and make that connection. And I think it's just fantastic that they responded, and I was glad to be in service for that.
Right, and that's the other thing is in the spirit of being in service, in sort of a egoless way. It's not that you don't have your individuality and personality there, you do, but it's allowing things to come through us and to do something that's really amazing, not only for ourselves, but for the planet, because what we're really doing, when you kind of boil it down, is that we're pioneering a morphogenic field that is building this bridge between human Earth civilization and these extraterrestrial civilizations, some of which have been watching us for thousands and I dare say millions of years, since the time of Lemuria and Mu and Atlantis and ancient civilizations for which we have no official record for, but which we do have records that have been suppressed. In fact, there's a top secret scientist that we've worked with that is periodically brought artifacts from those ancient civilizations that had contact with extraterrestrial civilizations. And he's asked by the intelligence community to figure out how these devices might have been used and how they worked. And this is true. I mean, this is a person that Dr. Bravo and myself and Dr. Loader and Debbie Foch and other senior people on our team have met with and spent a great deal of time with, and he is a currently very highly classified scientist who works for secret projects. And, the reality is that these civilizations have been around a very long time, but the difference about then and now is that we're coming into a whole new era. Everyone knows that talks about 2012, but really we have a whole era of human civilization ending and a new one opening that is intended to exist for 500,000 years of unbroken enlightenment and peace on this planet. It truly is the age of enlightenment. And these civilizations know that. And it's not just an Earth event. It is a cosmic and universal event. And so when we're out there in Joshua Tree, like we're going to be from November 7th to 13th of this year, and when we were there last year, when the Bijou, this ET from Andromeda, showed up that you photographed, this is actually just an indication of the kind of opening that's happening. And speaking of openings, I have to say, and we hope to have this up on the website soon. We've just haven't even caught our breath from coming back from Arizona less than 2 weeks ago. But when we were out there that last night, Emery, again, had a digital camera, and I had been talking about something right straight above us. In fact, I'd seen that in the meditation that night. And he took a photograph, more than one, and two in particular, where it really looks like, when you look at it closely, that time-space is opening up, and there's almost like this, there weren't any clouds, but there's this lit object creating this almost like fog around it as it's emerging into linear space-time from another dimension, and it is gorgeous. It's stunning. It's beautiful. It was right above us the last night, and there we were out there with, 150 or 200 people sitting out under the stars on this roof terrace in southern Arizona 2 weeks ago tonight, in fact. And it was a totally stunning a series of photographs. And this is what is accelerating, because the veil, as I tell people, is getting very thin. The time is very short. And everyone knows this. In their bones, they feel it, that the time of the sort of silly season of stupidity of how humans have lived on this planet, fighting over dross and dreck and garbage, is going to close. And there's another whole chapter opening, and they're happening at the same time. While the one is collapsing, the other one is unfolding, and that's how it always happens. And so what we're doing with CSETI is teaching people the Vedas and doing the pujas and initiating into higher states of consciousness at these trainings. And by the way, I have to say, every one of these trainings, I didn't used to do this because, I was concerned people would take it the wrong way, but I just said, oh, the hell with it. And now on these expeditions, like at Joshua Tree, we're going to do at least one and maybe two of these ancient Sanskrit Vedic pujas together as a group as we go into these deep states of meditation and connect through consciousness into this ability to remote view and see these extraterrestrial civilizations and then vector them, just like a jet is vectored into John F. Kennedy Airport in New York, onto the site where we're located, and be in a state of universal mind but also universal peace. And we do this with the whole group doing this group meditation together, and it creates an unspeakably powerful state of energy and consciousness that really does open up human civilization to these visitors, because this is what they're waiting for. They're not, everyone says, well, it's this corny thing. It's like when Larry King asked me, well, gee, why don't they land on the White House lawn and just, walk up and, and shake hands with the president? And I'm going, well, why would they? And which president? At that time it was Bill Clinton. I have nothing against Bill Clinton. But, first of all, they'd be blown out of the skies with missile batteries if they did this that are surrounding Washington. And then secondly, they're really looking to interface with people who understand trans-dimensional reality and how these civilizations are interfacing with consciousness and spirit and mind, because that is the big sort of lesson of this that is missed by people who are obsessed with kicking the tires on a UFO. And I think that obviously we have some amazing photographs of ETs, craft that are materialized, like your one at the Outer Banks, broad daylight. But at the same time, the real message is about the state of consciousness and the sort of the state of our own being, but of the state of the world that we're headed towards, which is a world of enlightenment and higher states of consciousness and an unbroken cycle of peace. And if the last yuga has been marked by periods of enlightenment, which are quickly followed by decay and chaos, this next cycle is going to be marked by an unbroken period of universal peace, not just Earth, but the entire cosmos, and enlightenment on this planet, where we're going to live not only peacefully in terms of wars ending, but in a state of amazing technology and consciousness and conscious technologies, because the big science of the next millennium is the science of consciousness, and that's a key part of what we teach at these trainings and expeditions, and that's why I believe these ET vehicles and beings are doing what they're doing, because we have more and more people who are entering into that understanding and reaching a sort of state of coherence, and that's the requisite state to be in for this big change to happen and for humanity to not only live together peacefully on this planet, but to go out amongst the stars peacefully. Because if we stay in the consciousness of separation and division, we're going to take that consciousness into space with us, and this is not permitted.
Right.
It just isn't. And this is something that when I meet with people at the CIA and the Department of Defense and NASA and what have you, I say, look, the entry ticket to going out into space is a peaceful civilization. It's not going out there with Star Wars weapons. It's not going out there with this consciousness of us versus them, and let's, as Will Smith said in the movie Independence Day, let's kick alien butt. This is not what it's about, and there's no possibility of progress on the timeline we're on past a certain point, without humans realizing that peace really originates within ourselves, and then we manifest it in the world, in how we live, and even how our technologies are. I mean, the technologies we have today, fossil fuels, nuclear power with all the radioactive, life-destroying stuff, is a reflection of the state of the consciousness. And that these new technologies, which we're working on at the orionproject.org, and I might mention that Raven is on the board of directors of the orionproject.org, that in reality, these technologies, these new technologies, are a corollary to the state of consciousness that's nonviolent, peaceful, and that is this integrative state and transdimensional state, that not only in consciousness, but the actual physical propulsion and physical electricity generating systems, as a corollary, arise from that understanding, as opposed to digging coal up out of the ground and burning it, destroying the atmosphere and the land and people's lives as you do so. So this is really the key thing for people to understand, is that on the one hand, it is a very physical event that's happening, but it's rooted in consciousness, in a higher state of consciousness.
Absolutely, and it's just I'm just always amazed with each consecutive training that I've been on, and over the years, how the level of contact seems to be ramping up, and with the Orion transmissions in 2007, and then over the last year or so, I'd say we've been definitely getting a lot more recordings of these anomalous voices, and also odd, strange tones that are almost like these. You can't even describe them, because the tone it's not like a human-made electronic device tone. It's something else that's just manifesting from the space around us. And I don't know if you might want to mention something about that, but we've had that happen so frequently in the last few years, and especially at Mount Shasta, where and people could actually see the design of this tone. It was just amazing.
It's incredibly Vedic, because it's name and form. Anyone who understands pujas and the ancient sciences of the Vedas understand that form is preceded by tonality. That's what mantras are. Mantras are, and I teach people a very special mantra as part of the meditation training that we do at these retreats, like we're doing at the Joshua Tree November 7th to the 13th. We are teaching people this because the sound component of thought has a vibration that then manifests the astral and etheric light that then manifests the actual object. And we were at Mount Shasta a few years ago, and this is actually on the DVD that your husband, Todd, helped create or did most of the work for this new book, Kontakt, Countdown to Transformation, that people can get at disclosureproject.org. And that on that DVD is a track that has this tone that Raven was mentioning at Mount Shasta. And when that tone emerged out of transdimensional space around us, we're sitting out in the national forest. Now you have to understand this, we're on volcanic soil. We're sitting out there under the stars in the shadow of Mount Shasta, California, where we were just there back in September of this year again. And all of a sudden, we hear this tone that emerges out of the space around us, and virtually everyone there heard this, like 40 people. And in your mind's eye, you could see this sphere that became like this string of spheres, like a string of pearls, and that almost everyone saw the same imagery that was manifested by the tone. It was the E.T. craft in the etheric form, but what we heard, no one saw anything with their naked eye. They saw it in their mental space, okay, in their mental view. But everyone heard with the ears this tone, and we actually recorded it. Now, the recording was with an old tape recorder. It was not very good quality, but that is on this DVD. Now, fast forward to about a month ago, a little over a month ago, between the 4th and the 11th of September, we were up at Mount Shasta again, and we were at this